Hi and welcome back to Garden Ninja. Now today's video is going to give you the top 5 garden design fails so that you as new gardeners can help avoid them and make your gardens and garden designs look awesome. So come on, let's get cracking. If you've not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the red button to subscribe today. Also click the bell for notifications. We'll have access to hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks from me, the Garden Ninja. And best of all, it's free. Now the first garden design fail is the skinny border. You'll see that all of my borders are at least 1 metre wide. So even if you're in a small garden space and you're limited, it's better to do one border really well than have a skinny border around the perimeter of the garden that just looks a bit naff. Now the problem with the skinny border is it always looks really narrow and a little bit piecemeal. You end up having to line up all your plants in a row that looks really formal. Whereas if you have a much bigger border, you get a much deeper effect and it can actually make your garden look far bigger. So avoid this skinny border. Now the second design fail is lack of height in a garden. And often in smaller gardens we tend to keep things low, thinking that it'll make the garden feel more open. But if we've just got everything low, then it means that the entrance to the garden is also low. So by adding some height by using, say, a small tree like the malus behind me, or a pergola or structure, you can help lift the view of the garden up, meaning that even in a small space the garden will feel bigger because you're making use of that space up here that otherwise would just be redundant. Now the third garden design fail is not having a clear function or focal point in your garden. In this garden here, the function and focal point is a seating area. It's an outdoor entertaining space. But with a lot of gardens that I see, I find that there's just no feature, no focal point or no function. So it's always best to design your garden with some form of function in mind, whether it's going to be entertaining, working from home, growing your own vegetables, a child-friendly play garden. If you start with that function, then the garden will have a purpose. Now garden design fail 4 is awkward proportions. And sometimes as new gardeners, you can be in a rush to get your garden drawn up and then implemented. The problem with an awkward proportion is if you get it wrong, the garden will never feel comfortable. And the best way to get the right proportions is to take your lead from things like the windows and doors on your property. And that will help give you that scale to then manage the size of borders, seating areas or paths. And it helps balance the garden with the house. A good example of an awkward proportion is a skinny path. And sometimes you try and squeeze in a really thin path to make the most out of the garden space. However, if the path is too small and skinny, it will feel awkward. You won't use it and you'll start to make shortcuts. So a good rule of thumb is to go inside to the house, look out, and then work out the proportion, depth and width of all the garden components to make sure that they marry up. And the fifth, final garden design fail is lack of consistency. Sometimes as new gardeners, we get so carried away that we want one of this, one of that, and we end up with a garden that looks pretty much cluttered and a bit pick and mix. Whereas if we try and focus on consistency, we can bring the garden together. A good example behind me are these gabions that I have in my own garden. Now you don't need anything this large, but you can see that they're consistent throughout the garden and they help tie it together. Now you can obtain consistency using the same colours, textures, plant species or proportions, so you can choose it based on the size of garden and budget that you have. But by being consistent, you're helping to tie the garden together and make it feel really cohesive and like it's one design rather than lots of different ideas smushed together. Have you got gardening questions that you need answers for? Well, why not head over to the Garden Ninja forum on my blog, where you can ask me anything about gardens, plants and garden design. There's a whole army of other garden ninjas there that can help provide answers to your questions. It's a really great way to meet the other ninjas, so head over there now. So there we go, my top 5 design fails to help you avoid making garden design mistakes and help create awesome garden spaces. If you've liked this video, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button below and click the bell for notifications. If you've got more questions about garden design, drop them in the comments below or visit my site where you can ask questions on the Garden Ninja forum. But there are thousands of garden ninjas to help you make your gardens awesome. I've been Garden Ninja, happy gardening.